Welcome! Okay, so welcome to a decade of vegan. Sounds like an interesting title, but just, I'm going to tee it up.
Imagine a world where the iPhone had just been released. Tofu was a place. A fruit called jackfruit. What the hell was jackfruit?
Kombucha didn't exist. It wasn't omnipresent. So this was the world. Back 10 years ago, I remember me and Steve used to still share a wardrobe. We had just turned 30. It was the first time the first time ever we had to move out separately because we'd obviously both got partners and got married separately.
But back at the start of the decade, we were using Nokia phones. Twitter had started, Facebook was the new frontier, YouTube was quite an ordeal to get a video up on it.
I remember even we got a video shot for us 10 years ago, and I was a friend with a camcorder, and just to get it uploaded, it was such a big deal, like it really was. So we want to talk to you about how vegan has changed over the last 10 years and go through it. We've been eating a vegan diet for 18 years, and over the last 10, like at the start of the decade, we didn't tell people you were vegan. It was vegetarian was the only kind of point of reference for most people. If you went to a restaurant then...
And the word vegan was almost seen as a religious thing. It was obscure, it was weird, it was hippie, it was like, why are you doing that? 10 years ago, I remember we had a juice bar in our first shop, and smoothies and juices were super cool. That was it. Like they were all the rage. People were into smoothies, you know, that's what all the kids were into. People used to buy 10-kilo bags of potatoes. They used to buy cabbages, turnips, carrots, parsnips. They didn't really buy bell peppers, didn't know what the hell asparagus was. And an oyster mushroom, that must have come from the sea.
Mangoes, yeah, it wasn't.
With the rise of social media and the rise of people seeing food, back in those days you used to eat a meal without taking a picture, whereas nowadays, did I actually eat a meal if I didn't take a picture of it?
Oh. But I guess just to go through a couple of the trends that have shifted over the last 10 years. I know certainly like we've gone through phases of where it was low fat. Low fat was all the rage. If you went to the supermarket, it was always low fat on it. Then it shifted to high fat. It shifted to gluten-free. Gluten-free came in, and obviously gluten-free and vegan, even more popular. And really it's come out now in the last few years, as you are well aware of, where plant-based milks, like back even 5 years ago, we had, I'd say 10% of our coffees were plant-based. That was it. Most people just wanted normal milk. It didn't really exist.
Whereas nowadays, I'd say 60% of all coffees we sell are plant-based milk. And even in terms of plant-based milks in our shop, back 5 years ago, you weren't able to get plant-based milks unless you went to a health food store. There were supermarkets didn't stop them. They weren't ubiquitous. Oatly wasn't out. It was... Yeah, you needed a prescription. You needed a prescription to get plant-based milk.
Yeah, it was nearly that bad. But let's get a conversation going about this. Let us know what you remember most over the last decade. What are the things that you remember in terms of the shift of vegan? How it's shifted, like in terms of consciousness, even the public perception of the word. It's become... Steve wants to say something.
Yeah, and even over the last, I think it was with the Netflix taking over and the release of movies such as Cowspiracy, What the Health, Game Changers, have all really brought it into the forefront and linked in with the climate crisis. It's become a lot more desirable, attractive. Over the last couple of years, every day we meet kind of younger people who are aspiring to be a vegan. It's something it's attractive, it's got a cause, with as religion has been, I guess, reducing in Ireland.
So
anyway.
Yeah, even if you look at the trend over the last 10 years, it's almost like a sky, well, it's been slow, steady, but it's really peaking this, I guess the movement, the plant-based movement, people eating more fruit and veg.
And even over the last two to 3 years, I think the most obvious rises is one, fermented food group has become hugely popular. Kombucha, I remember back about 10 years selling kombucha, and it was this weird Chinese medical type thing. No one knew what it was. It was ahead of its time, whereas in the last 5 years, with the term microbiome, a lot more research around the importance of microbiome, the importance for bacteria biodiversity for a healthy immune system, kimchi, sauerkraut, kefir, water kefir, kombucha, it's all the cool foods.
Yeah, they really are. And I guess there's been, over the last decades, there's been the rise in different superfoods, you know, where we had kale, we had turmeric, we had coconut milk, we have functional mushrooms. But back earlier in the decade, I don't know what there was. It was tofu. Yeah. That was really...
Tofu, yeah.
Tofu and vegetables, the vegetable kingdom at large. And maybe we weren't as aware. I think it was goji berries, really.
Yeah.
Berries
and even, I'd say over the last 4 years, there's been a huge rise in plant-based meats. Like back at the start of the decades, there was a thing called a veggie burger, and if you ate it, it kind of squished out the side. It was a veggie burger. But now there's been a rise, like if you look at even Beyond Meat, it IPO'd for a number of billion. So there's been a huge societal desire for this plant-based meat, a more ethical, plant-based source.
Anyway, that's fascinating. But
Thank you, David.
we'd love to know your thoughts. Let us know what you remember most, what you think have been the biggest shifts over the last decade.
Ships or shifts?
Shifts. How many shifts do you get now? What have been the biggest shifts? What have you seen in terms of the trends? And what you remember over the last decade, particularly from the point of reference of plant-based and vegan and all those various things. So yeah. And I just wanted to say, thanks for being part of this community. We really appreciate it. Thank you for giving us your time. It's your most valuable thing. And we're honoured. We really, really are.
And here's to a great decade for us all.
Cheers.